The president's not up for re-election, but his policies are. He said that. And Senator Shaheen is his #1 foot soldier. So if you want to make sure that Harry Reid's not the majority leader, we can take over the Senate and make sure that that doesn't happen.
It is the 5th smallest state in America, the 9th least populous of the 50 states. The state motto is "Live Free or Die," and it comes from a toast written by Revolutionary War General John Stark for a reunion of the Battle of Bennington. And the entire credo reads, "Live free or die. Death is not the worst of evils." Neither is politics, though some might disagree. And it is politics that makes New Hampshire the place where this season, much like many others, aspirations come to live large or die quickly. Because it is in New Hampshire, the battle between Jeanne Shaheen and Scott Brown, that all the election watchers are looking at right now and saying that what happens here on Tuesday night will indeed set the tone for what happens around the rest of the nation. As you heard in the clip, the one thing that happens here in this race that happens every single time that any of the candidates appear, either one of them, whether together or individually, you will hear Scott Brown trot out the aspiration, the note that Jeanne Shaheen is here strictly because of Barack Obama. She is carrying the water for Barack Obama. She is taking care of his policies. She is pushing his policies home to New Hampshire. What it talks about is the differences in how these two candidates are approaching the way to get elected. Scott Brown's decided it has to come down to national issues. But Jeanne Shaheen has said many times that it comes down to the fact that Scott Brown is not from New Hampshire. Scott Brown is actually an interloper, and he's trying to make you forget that at every single turn. All right, stage is set. Welcome to MidPoint. Political reporter for the National Review, who has been pondering the proceedings in New Hampshire, Joel Gerhke joins us today. Joel, thanks so much for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Joel, is it fair to say that if Scott Brown could, he would have it tattooed on his forehead where it would say, "It's all about Barack Obama's policies," so that every time he has to shake a hand or appear any place, that is going to be the message that he wants to make sure gets driven home every single second?
Yeah, I think what he'd say exactly is that she votes with him over 90% of the time. His favorite way of pointing that out lately has been by talking about border security and every crisis that comes up over the summer. Scott Brown's there to say that President Obama's doing a bad job. Jeanne Shaheen isn't doing anything to change his mind.
All right, let's look at the local issues versus the national then, because it's obvious what Scott Brown is trying to do here is push forward a national agenda here. Shaheen comes in and says, wait a minute now, it's all about New Hampshireans and what they want. You're talking about the local issues here, and that's what you're missing. As you've been covering the race and watching it, is that a fair charge here that he's missing this and the New Hampshire folks are not really going to fall for this?
Well, I think when she's doing her local issues routine, every incumbent in a tough environment tries that, but when Shaheen does it in particular, what she's oftentimes trying to drive home is the reminder that Scott Brown moved to New Hampshire from Massachusetts. So she sort of everything about her attack, it looks basically like every other Democrat's attack, except that she prefaces it with a carpetbagger smear. So when there's Koch brothers stuff comes up, they have an ad. She'll open by reminding people that he used to have campaign signs that say he was for Massachusetts. But what Brown has found is that ever since mid-July or so, he's been able to hit her on these border security issues. He was the first senator. He was the first Senate candidate, that is, to release an ad on the border crisis, and he was down 12 at the time when he put it out. And a few weeks later, he was in a dead heat. And so that has gotten a lot of national conservatives excited because they see a Scott Brown victory as a big talking point for them, that you can run on their issues in a blue state and move numbers.
So is Jeanne Shaheen then in some cases underestimating the fact that the voters of New Hampshire certainly are interested in what happens there, but they are interested in border security and they are interested in Barack Obama's policies, and she basically is making a mistake?
Well, she's definitely underestimated Scott Brown throughout this campaign season, and it's not certain by any means who's going to win this race. He does have some local issues that he can talk about. When she supports President Obama's energy agenda, that drives up energy prices in New Hampshire, where it gets very cold in the winter and energy costs are very high. But yeah, what they found, I was talking to John Sununu, the former governor. What they found is that constituencies that are generally not reliable Republican constituencies, women, moms who might be inclined to go with some of this war on women stuff, that Democrats like to roll out. They really the border security issue, the ISIS issue, the Ebola issue really has them nervous, and so that's been a way that Scott Brown can talk to them and they can give him another look, even though you don't generally associate New Hampshire with conservative immigration hawks.
I'm looking at a poll right here, excuse me, a Granite State survey, finding that 48% of the voters have an unfavorable reaction to Scott Brown. If almost half of them do, how's he staying so close in the race?
I think the numbers are pretty similar for Jeannie Shaheen as well. It's sort of, give her credit. That carpetbagger attack works. That's one reason why his negatives are so high. But they also, when he ran in Massachusetts, he spent $40 million in that campaign in 2012. So they've heard a lot of things about him that they like. What they don't like is that they heard it when he was in Massachusetts, because, New Hampshire is in the Boston, most of the state of New Hampshire is in the Boston media market. So they saw all those TV ads that he was running 2 years ago.
You brought up war on women a couple of minutes ago, and I wanted to ask you about this because it is something that the Democrats hammer away on. And what we're getting is it's a tired argument, and not even the left is falling for it anymore. And then they're finally starting to see that in many ways, this is just a fraud. Is it being looked at it the same way in New Hampshire by the voters there?
In New Hampshire, it's much more difficult even than in other parts of the country, where it's also they're having a hard time because Scott Brown's pro-choice. This is one reason that social conservatives, have kind of a hard time with him. He's pro-choice. He's not even. It's not even about contraception over there. He's got very similar policy positions to Jeannie Shaheen. So she actually tried to run the war on women strategy on him, and it didn't work because he could point out that they basically agree on that stuff. And she had to pull her ads as a result. I think that some outside groups in the Democratic Party, the National Democrats, are still trying to work it, but Shaheen had to give up.
Yeah, I think she's given up on a lot of things right now, and pretty much as every other Democrat is in many other cases, running away from the president as fast as they can. Joel Gerhke from the National Review, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Good luck in New Hampshire, and I'm sure it's going to be interesting on Tuesday. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me very much.
All right, breaking back, the future of American warfare means a trip to the sandbox. And later on this hour, calling out the clowns who think Ebola is something to be used lightly in the political wars. I mean, let's face it, it's only a deadly disease, right? Let's go ahead and use it. Telling it like it is, we'll have a commentary on that and a whole lot more coming up right here on MidPoint.